My dear brothers and sisters, one of the greatest anxieties of our time is the fear of provision. People wake up worried about jobs, salaries, promotions, and stability. They lie awake at night asking, what if I lose my income? What if I don't succeed? This fear slowly eats away at the heart. But let us pause and remind ourselves of a fundamental truth of Islam. Your rizq was written before you were born. You, Allah, the most waqis, did not create you and then forget about you. He did not bring you into this world and leave you to struggle alone. From the moment your soul was created, your provision was already decreed. Okay, this does not mean we sit back and do nothing. Islam is not a religion of laziness. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us to tie our camel and trust Allah. We work, we strive, we learn skills, and we seek halal means. But the heart must never believe that the job is the provider. The job is only a means. The employer is only a means. The salary is only a means. Allah is the provider. When people chase jobs without chasing Allah, they often compromise their values, their prayers, their honesty, and even their mental health. They begin to believe that missing salah is acceptable, that dishonesty is necessary, and that stress is the price of success. But ask yourself, at what kind of success costs you your connection with Allah? A true success is not just earning, it is earning with peace. Not just achieving, but achieving with barakah. You look at how Allah teaches us through creation. The birds leave their nests hungry every morning, yet they return full by evening. They do not have contracts, savings accounts, or guarantees, yet Allah provides. They move, they try, but they rely completely on Him. When a believer prioritizes Allah guarding their prayers, being honest in dealings, trusting Allah in hardship, something remarkable happens. Even if doors close, better doors open. Even if delays occur, wisdom is at work. Sometimes Allah withholds what you want to give you something far better. Sometimes He delays to protect you. Sometimes He tests you to raise you, so do not panic if things are slow. Do not lose hope if opportunities seem few. Your rizq will never miss you, even if the whole world tries to block it. You chase Allah and your rizq will chase you. Prioritize faith, and Allah will place ease in your effort. Trust His plan, and you will find peace even before success arrives. May Allah grant us halal provision, content hearts, and unshakable trust in Him. Ameen. Rizq in Islam is a comprehensive and deeply spiritual concept that goes far beyond the narrow definition of income or employment. Many people mistakenly believe that rizq is limited to money, salary, or material wealth, but Islamic teachings clearly show that provision includes everything Allah grants a person to sustain, benefit, and enrich their life. Rizq includes physical needs such as food, shelter, and clothing, but it also encompasses health, peace of mind, knowledge, time, loving relationships, safety, guidance, and even opportunities that lead to goodness. When this broader understanding is internalized, it reshapes how a believer views success, hardship, and daily struggles. Allah explicitly declares Himself as Rizq, the ultimate provider. This divine name emphasizes that provision is not controlled by markets, employers, governments, or economic systems, but by Allah alone. Human beings are merely recipients, not controllers of provision. Even the means through which rizq arrives are created and controlled by Allah. A job does not create wealth. It is simply a channel Allah chooses to use. When Allah wills, He can change the channel at any moment without reducing what He has written for a person. This realization removes excessive fear and anxiety from the heart, because fear usually comes from believing that provision is fragile and dependent solely on human effort. Islam teaches that rizq is distributed with wisdom, not equality. Allah does not give everyone the same amount, nor does He give in the same way. Some people receive wealth but struggle with health. Others enjoy peace and contentment despite limited income. Some are given influence, others knowledge, others patience. This distribution is not a sign of favoritism or neglect. It is part of a divine test. Wealth is a test, just as poverty is a test. Ease is a test, just as hardship is a test. Understanding this prevents a believer from measuring their worth or closeness to Allah based on their financial status. Another essential aspect of rizq is that it is pre-decreed. Islamic teachings explain that a person's provision was written before their birth. This does not eliminate free will or effort, but it places effort within the framework of divine knowledge. A believer strives, studies, works, and plans while knowing that outcomes are ultimately decided by Allah. This balance protects a person from arrogance when successful and despair when facing setbacks. Success does not lead to pride because one knows it was granted, not earned independently. Failure does not lead to hopelessness because one knows that what missed them was never meant for them. Rizq is also connected to obedience and gratitude, not in a transactional sense, but through barakah. Barakah refers to divine blessing that causes something small to become sufficient and something limited to bring great benefit. Two people may earn the same amount, yet one feels constantly strained while the other feels content and secure. The difference is not always the number, but the blessing placed within it. Islam teaches that honesty, charity, gratitude, and remembrance of Allah invite barakah into one's provision, while dishonesty, ingratitude, and neglect of faith can remove it even from large amounts. It is also important to understand that rizq is not always immediate, but delays in provision do not indicate rejection or punishment. Sometimes Allah delays to teach patience, to redirect a person away from harm, or to prepare them for something greater. At other times, what appears to be a lack of provision is actually protection. A job, business, or opportunity may seem beneficial, but Allah may block it because it would have harmed a person's faith, character, or future. Trusting Allah's timing requires strong belief in His wisdom, especially when outcomes are unclear. Your rizq includes guidance and faith itself. Being guided to prayer, repentance, and remembrance of Allah is among the greatest provisions a person can receive. Many people possess wealth yet live spiritually empty lives, while others possess little but are rich in faith and tranquility. Islam teaches that this inner richness is a form of rizq that surpasses material possessions. The believer recognizes this. They stop defining success solely by financial milestones and begin valuing spiritual stability and moral integrity. Ultimately, understanding rizq correctly transforms how a believer lives. It encourages effort without obsession, ambition without desperation, and trust without passivity. It allows a person to work diligently while remaining calm, hopeful, and anchored in faith. When provision is seen as a gift from Allah rather than a product of constant chasing, the heart finds peace, and life becomes an act of worship rather than a source of endless anxiety. Islam places strong emphasis on effort, responsibility, and productivity, but it draws a clear line between healthy striving and unhealthy obsession. Effort is encouraged because human beings are commanded to act, seek lawful means, and use the abilities Allah has given them. Obsession, however, occurs when the heart becomes attached to outcomes rather than obedience, when success is seen as survival, and when fear drives decisions more than faith. Understanding the difference between these two states is essential for maintaining both spiritual balance and mental well-being. Effort in Islam is purposeful and disciplined. A believer seeks education, develops skills, looks for opportunities, and works with excellence because effort itself is an act of worship when done with the right intention. Islam never praises laziness or negligence. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that the strong believer is better and more beloved than the weak believer, and this strength includes the ability to work, contribute, and strive. Effort reflects gratitude for one's abilities and recognition that time, energy, and intellect are trusts from Allah that must be used responsibly. Obsession, on the other hand, begins when effort turns into desperation. This happens when a person believes that their survival, dignity, or future depends entirely on a job, a paycheck, or a position. At this point, the heart becomes enslaved to outcomes. Salah is delayed or neglected, Ethical boundaries are compromised, family relationships are strained, and inner peace is sacrificed. The person is no longer working for Allah, they are working out of fear. Islam warns against this state because it weakens tawakkul and places trust in creation rather than the Creator. One of the clearest signs of obsession is anxiety that overrides faith. While concern and planning are natural, constant panic about provision indicates a misunderstanding of who controls outcomes. A believer may plan carefully, but they do not collapse emotionally when plans fail. Obsession causes people to interpret setbacks as disasters rather than redirections. Islam teaches that not every closed door is a loss. Sometimes it is protection or preparation. When obsession dominates, a person cannot see wisdom in delay, only threat. Effort is guided by values, while obsession often justifies wrongdoing. In the pursuit of success, some people begin to lie on resumes, deceive clients, exploit others, or engage in haram income, convincing themselves that necessity excuses everything. Islam strongly rejects this mindset. Halal provision, even if limited, carries dignity and blessing, while haram provision, even if abundant, brings restlessness and harm. True effort respects divine boundaries, while obsession sees boundaries as obstacles. Another difference lies in emotional attachment. Effort allows a person to work hard while remaining emotionally stable. Obsession creates extreme emotional dependence on results. A promotion becomes self-worth, a rejection becomes humiliation, and financial difficulty becomes personal failure. Islam teaches that human value comes from faith and character, not productivity or income. When effort is balanced, success is met with gratitude and humility, and failure is met with patience and hope. Obsession removes this balance and replaces it with pride or despair. Effort operates within trust in Allah's plan, while obsession tries to control what is not meant to be controlled. Islam acknowledges planning and strategy, but it rejects the illusion of total control. A believer understands that they are responsible for action, not outcome. Outcomes belong to Allah alone. When this belief is strong, effort becomes calm and focused rather than frantic. A person works hard but sleeps peacefully, knowing that what is written will reach them. Obsession also distorts priorities. When chasing worldly success becomes central, spiritual obligations are treated as secondary. Prayer is rushed, remembrance is forgotten, and gratitude is replaced with complaint. Islam teaches that dunya should be in the hands, not in the heart. Effort keeps dunya in its proper place, while obsession allows it to dominate the heart. This domination leads to burnout, dissatisfaction, and constant comparison with others. Islam promotes balance through tawakkul, which is not passive reliance but active trust. Tawakkul means doing what is required without panic, knowing that Allah sees every step taken sincerely. A believer with tawakkul works with excellence but accepts outcomes with serenity. They recognize that provision does not increase by disobedience nor decrease by obedience. This belief frees the heart from constant worry and restores clarity of purpose. When effort replaces obsession, work becomes a means of worship rather than a source of fear. Life regains balance, ethics regain importance, and peace returns to the heart. A believer who understands this distinction is able to strive confidently, knowing that Allah does not waste effort done sincerely, and that no amount of obsession can bring what Allah has not decreed. Tawakkul, or reliance upon Allah, is one of the most misunderstood principles in Islam. Many people assume it means abandoning effort and waiting passively for things to happen, while others believe it is merely a comforting idea with no practical role in daily life. In reality, tawakkul is a deeply active state of the heart that works in harmony with action. It is the conscious decision to place full trust in Allah while responsibly using the means He has provided. A true tawakkul begins with correct belief. A believer understands that Allah is fully aware of their situation, needs, and struggles. Nothing is hidden from Him, and nothing happens outside His knowledge or permission. This awareness builds inner stability because fear usually arises from uncertainty and lack of control. Tawakkul does not deny uncertainty, but it removes the fear attached to it by affirming that Allah's control is perfect, even when outcomes are unclear. Action is a necessary component of tawakkul. Islam repeatedly emphasizes that human beings are accountable for their efforts. Seeking education, applying for jobs, improving skills, and working diligently are all part of fulfilling one's responsibility. Tawakkul does not replace effort, it purifies it. When effort is combined with reliance on Allah, the believer works sincerely without being emotionally consumed by results. The focus shifts from I must succeed to I will do my best and trust Allah with the outcome. One of the clearest signs of genuine tawakkul is emotional balance. A person who relies on Allah does not collapse when plans fail, nor do they become arrogant when plans succeed. Success is seen as a gift, not a personal achievement independent of Allah. Failure is seen as a lesson, a redirection, or a delay rather than a punishment or permanent loss. This emotional steadiness protects the heart from extremes of pride and despair. Tawakkul also reshapes how a believer views obstacles. Instead of seeing challenges as threats, they are seen as part of a divine process. Closed doors are not always rejections, sometimes they are safeguards. Delays are not always denial, sometimes they are preparation. When a person trusts Allah's wisdom, they stop demanding immediate answers and start focusing on maintaining obedience and patience during uncertainty. Another dimension of tawakkul is detachment from means while still using them. Islam teaches that means do not possess power independently. A job, a degree, or a connection can be taken away or rendered ineffective in an instant if Allah wills. Likewise, Allah can bring provision through unexpected channels. Tawakkul allows a believer to use means responsibly without placing their heart's security in them. The heart remains attached to Allah, not to systems or people. Fear of the future weakens tawakkul. Excessive worry about what might happen tomorrow often distracts a person from fulfilling their duties today. Islam teaches that each day has its own provision and its own challenges. Tawakkul encourages a believer to focus on the present moment, perform current obligations with excellence, and leave future outcomes to Allah. This mindset reduces anxiety and prevents the mind from being overwhelmed by hypothetical scenarios. Tawakkul is also closely linked to patience and gratitude. When things are difficult, reliance on Allah strengthens patience because the believer trusts that hardship has purpose and limits. When things are easy, tawakkul nurtures gratitude because the believer recognizes that ease is not guaranteed or self-generated. This balance ensures that faith remains stable across changing circumstances. It is important to recognize that tawakkul does not mean the absence of planning. Islam encourages strategic thinking, consultation, and foresight. However, planning must be accompanied by flexibility and humility. A believer plans while acknowledging that Allah may alter the path at any time. When plans change, tawakkul allows the heart to adjust without bitterness or resentment. Tawakkul also protects sincerity. When reliance is on Allah rather than people, a believer is less likely to seek validation, approval, or recognition. Work is done with integrity even when unseen, because the ultimate reliance is on Allah's reward, not human praise. This strengthens moral character and reduces the pressure to perform for others. At its core, tawakkul is a form of worship. It is an expression of faith that Allah is sufficient, wise, and merciful. When a believer truly relies on Allah, effort becomes lighter, fear becomes manageable, and life gains clarity. The heart learns to rest in trust while the body continues to strive, creating harmony between action and faith that sustains a believer through both success and struggle. Spiritual alignment in Islam refers to arranging one's life in a way that places obedience to Allah at the center of all actions, decisions, and priorities. When a believer aligns their heart, intentions, and behavior with divine guidance, the result is not only spiritual growth but also the attraction of Barakah into their efforts. Barakah is a unique form of divine blessing that cannot be measured by numbers alone. It manifests as ease, sufficiency, and unexpected goodness within what a person has. Okay, one of the strongest foundations of spiritual alignment is consistency in obligatory worship. Salah, when performed on time and with awareness, disciplines the heart and anchors a believer's day around remembrance of Allah. This alignment trains a person to view their work, family responsibilities, and ambitions through a spiritual lens. When prayer is prioritized, life gains structure and balance, and decisions are made with greater clarity. Barakah often appears not through increased income, but through improved focus, better time management, and reduced stress. Honesty and integrity play a critical role in attracting barakah. Islam places immense value on truthful speech, fair dealings, and ethical conduct, particularly in matters of work and finance. A believer who refuses to lie, cheat, or exploit others may feel they are limiting themselves in the short term, but divine blessing compensates in ways that are not immediately visible. Trust is built, reputation strengthened, and opportunities arise naturally. Barakah ensures that what is earned through honesty carries peace rather than regret. Yet gratitude is another powerful aspect of spiritual alignment. Recognizing and appreciating what Allah has already provided shifts the heart from constant dissatisfaction to contentment. Gratitude is not passive acceptance, it is active acknowledgement that every blessing, no matter how small, is from Allah. This mindset opens the door for increase, not necessarily in quantity, but in quality. A grateful person uses what they have more effectively and experiences greater fulfillment from it. Charity and generosity are also closely tied to barakah. Islam teaches that giving does not reduce provision. Rather, it purifies and multiplies it. When a believer gives sincerely, trusting Allah to replace what was spent, it strengthens reliance and detaches the heart from material dependence. Barakah enters wealth when it is shared, benefiting both the giver and the receiver. Even small acts of generosity can bring profound spiritual and emotional returns. Avoiding haram income and unethical shortcuts is essential for maintaining spiritual alignment. Wealth acquired through impermissible means may appear beneficial outwardly, but it often removes tranquility from life. Stress, guilt, and instability frequently accompany such earnings. Islam teaches that purity and provision nourishes the soul and strengthens worship, while impurity weakens faith and disrupts inner peace. Barakah resides in halal efforts, even when results seem modest. Remembrance of Allah throughout daily activities reinforces spiritual alignment. Simple acts such as beginning work with intention, seeking Allah's help during difficulty, and thanking Him upon completion transform ordinary tasks into acts of worship. This constant awareness ensures that life does not become divided between religious and worldly spheres. Instead, work itself becomes a means of drawing closer to Allah, inviting barakah into time, energy, and outcomes. Spiritual alignment also influences how a believer responds to hardship. When faith is prioritized, challenges are met with patience rather than resentment. This response preserves emotional stability and prevents despair. Barakah often appears during hardship as strength, resilience, and unexpected assistance. A believer aligned with Allah's guidance understands that ease and difficulty are both opportunities for growth. Ultimately, spiritual alignment creates a life of coherence. Actions reflect beliefs, intentions guide behavior, and trust shapes expectations. When a believer consistently chooses obedience over convenience and faith over fear, Allah places barakah in their efforts. Doors open at the right time, resources stretch beyond expectations, and peace settles in the heart. This alignment does not guarantee a life without struggle, but it ensures that every effort is meaningful, supported, and enriched by divine wisdom.